Welcome to Tips for the Transition, where we have deep, meaningful conversations about life. We talk about how significant changes like divorce, grief, and career change can affect us, our family, our relationships, and our work, and how to move beyond them. I'm your host, Maria Tomás-Keegan, certified career and life coach for women, and I'm here to support you through the messy seasons of life so you can answer big questions like who am I now and how do I move on from here? If you're ready to consider new options, be inspired, and meet incredible women who are on this life journey with us, you're in the right place. You'll find something in each episode to give you hope and encourage you to move from panic to powerful, from rocky to resilient, and from upside down to right side up. This is Tips for the Transition. Hello, I'm so happy you joined us. Thanks for coming to the podcast today. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, your host. There are two things that I am very passionate about when it comes to serving professional women. Helping you create a life and career that fulfills you, and introducing you to inspiring guests. These fantastic women are role models and resources to help you explore career approaches, transition approaches, and practices and tips. So if something strikes a chord as you're listening today and you want more information, check out the show notes to connect with us, follow us, or subscribe. And I'd love it if something resonates, if you just leave a comment or a review. Now, not all of you are at the stage of your career to consider retirement, but I'll bet you know someone who is. And the kinds of questions that come up for those who are at that stage are very similar to the ones that we ask ourselves in a mid-career transition. Listen to these questions. Have you ever thought of this? Who am I now that things are changing? And what about this one? Is this all there is? Those are powerful questions when they come up for us. So what you're going to hear from our next expert guest can apply no matter what career stage you're in, but we're going to focus on retirement because it's one of those career transitions that can throw us for a loop. Nancy Schwartz is a transformational retirement strategist whose mission is to disrupt, notice the word, disrupt how we think about retirement. She helps her clients create a purposeful and healthy life after they choose to leave their work world behind. Nancy struggled with this transition herself, and when she couldn't find the support she needed while she prepared to leave her long, high-powered corporate career, Nancy read everything she could get her hands on from top global experts about health and retirement. Now, her innovative and solution-oriented approach to solving complex problems that she developed over years served her well and led her to develop a 12-week science-based proprietary retirement transformation. Nancy is a health and lifestyle consultant who advocates for personal growth and enrichment. So we call this episode Disrupting Retirement. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, Maria.
I am so happy that you're here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
All right. So I always love to hear about my guests' backstory. So would you tell us a little bit more about yours?
Sure. So, I'll tell you my career, which is not normal, right? So I started off in the land of professional dancing and was a classical ballerina, then went into modern. And then my dad said, for God's sakes, would you get a real job? I'm like, what? This is a real job. So off I went to business a little investment banking, and then the dominant piece of my corporate career was in executive search, so retained executive search. So what that means is that companies would come to us with the request, I need to find X, Y, or Z person. So that's very creative. It's very innovative, but it's very business driven as well. And then I decided I needed to retire. And what happened to me, my pivotal moments, were late at night in the office, and I was, 35, 40 years of in the corporate world. In my day, it was very much survival of the fittest, right? So working constantly. And I was really in and around retirement experiencing my first health issues. Health comes with you until you don't have it, right? So that's a big pivot for me in terms of thinking. And so, like you said in the introduction, I started thinking about, man, who are you these days, right? And I was also thinking about, like, is this all there is to work? I just work, more and more work, both in my personal and my professional piece, right? And so the bigger backstory that I think I want to share with everyone, which is really just these past couple of months, I've sort of come out into the marketplace and I've started to talk about this a little bit, was I was that professional while having to be professional in my day job, which was really 24 hours, 7 days a week. I also was the primary caregiver for many family members. So with that came huge responsibility in caring for someone's life, as well as a lot of self-directives. So I was burnt out. I was derailing. I was absolutely exhausted. I was directionless. And I finally sort of had to shake myself and say, Nancy, get a hold of yourself. You're an action-oriented person. We have to figure out how. So as you graciously talked about, while still operating, I started to say, I know I can contribute something bigger. I just don't know what that is. What is that exactly? And also, I knew that I'm really interested in certain things. So I'm very interested in science, and I'm really interested in technology. And I love sort of the economics and sort of like what is the interesting trends that are going on in business, right? So being able to marry all that together. And really, as you suggest, I came upon this while looking in the marketplace, which I couldn't find, which is pairing the health piece, because I believe you cannot have health without retirement, with the retirement piece. So that's sort of how this crazy idea, if you will, came to fruition.
Wow. What impresses me a lot about, and it did the very first time we met, this idea of finding a way to integrate all of the things that you're interested in so that you can create something different. I just listened to a TED Talk last night about the hybrid career. And the idea that, this woman wrote a book called We Are Not Our Title.
Yes. Oh, very interesting.
Right.
Yes.
And so, I love that you mentioned that you are not just an executive recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
You are not just a ballerina. You have interest in science and technology. How do you blend those things? You have interest in health, not your own, and as a caregiver, I'm a caregiver as well, so I understand
Mm-hmm.
this so well. How can we give care when we haven't taken care of ourselves adequately? There's so many ways this conversation could go.
Yes.
You've done a lot of research.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about some of the recent global studies that you've read. What are some of the interesting perceptions
Mm.
uh, that were revealed there when people hear the word retirement? I have my own.
Yes.
I think back to when my parents retired
Mm.
and what that meant to them and how that's not what it means to me. But let's hear about the research. What did you tell us about that? What did you learn from that?
So this is a great question, because we have a lot of things going on right now, right? So the
Do
world,
we? You think so?
yes,
You think so?
just a few, Maria, just a few. But the world is evolving. So let me step back and just give you my algorithm, and then I'm going to answer your question. So
Okay.
I'm thinking about retirement from this equation. So I'm looking at the explosion of science, the availability of consumer science to the person, the individual, the professional, right? And then I'm coupling that with the explosion of technology, right? That every day you can read that there's another company that's creating XYZ, pure play technology as well as health technology, right? And then we add to this algorithm the what's happening today, which is change, right? And that's the risk factor. Change is the risk factor, but it's to the nth degree, right? And so we want to look at this, and if you bundle this together, we want to look at this far, far out into longevity, right? And not just, hey, I want to live to be 125, but hey, I want to live to plus 100, which is very doable today. We know this from a science point of view, but the quality of our cells. And that's really we have to think about it from the molecular level. So what is it that we can do right now today to impact this longevity? And then we want to reverse engineer how to get there. Okay, so now let's go to your question, which is, okay, so when I first started thinking about retirement, I knew instinctually that I am not my father's retirement. I wish I was, because boy, he made it seem so easy and so elegant, and all his transitions were just, from such a beautiful example of leadership and community involvement, and that's what I aspired to. But when I got there, meaning time frame, gosh, didn't look like this, right?
Right.
Absolutely didn't look like this for me. And so I knew that I had to think about it in different components. And we also know, if we do global studies, the word retirement in any country around the world is, with all due respect, not really enjoyed, right? So it has a very, very negative connotation. And as you said, I'm the disruptor in any business. That's what I do. I come in and kind of disrupt. And so I want to encourage people to think of it more from the point of view of expansion, just extraordinary expansion and personal growth and ability to learn and land with yourself, right? And then, okay, so Maria said we have a few things going on in this world. Yes, we do. So let's add to all of this what has recently happened, which is the huge resignation across the world, right? So in a very recent PwC study, one of the top 3 elements that was detailed was value alignment, that the employee doesn't necessarily resign from work because of the dollars. It could also be in the top three, value alignment. And so that's extraordinary. And then I want to go back to this TED talk that you talked about in terms of labeling, right? And so in my day, it's a big deal to be a partner. It's a big deal to have, sort of the this status, the that status. And funnily, I've just written a little something, and I say that the Great Resignation has allowed us to think about how we can redefine our careers. And you, I'm sure, are seeing this because this is your world in terms of change, but the why is very different. Their why, right? So that allows for the freedom of the title to kind of evaporate and to find that fulfillment that is really bigger than the person. And that's coming from, the 30 to 55 year time frame that will carry over. And I'm hoping that this will help be the catalyst into the next generation's retirement. Right now we're a little bumpy because we have a lot of non-traditional retirements because of all these things. But I'm very hopeful that the next generations will feel more empowered to be able to make the changes irregardless of where they are in their careers.
Yeah, what, you brought up some great points. Traditional retirement, I don't even know what that means anymore.
Exactly.
And, those of us who are baby boomers, there's a large group of us right now who are in that stage of life to make those choices. And I honestly don't know. I said before, and you did too, I'm not my father's retirement. So far from it, and my mother's either. Long careers, and then stopped working, and there was no consideration about what else they would do to fulfill themselves. Right? They thought it was, and good for them, buying an RV and traveling the country. And that lasted for a little while. And then when they couldn't do that anymore, there wasn't anything. So I know that's not what I want.
Right.
And you're so right that if we don't have our health, then we don't have anything, right? We don't have any kind of opportunity to retire or to go do something that is something else. I think of it as another chapter.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way. Yeah.
It's just another chapter. We've, flipped a page. The corporate working world for me is behind me. And, I'm in my own business now. I love what I do. I love talking with people who are where I used to be.
Yes.
And helping them kind of figure it out too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but a lot of emotions come up. I love to dig into the kind of emotional side of transitions because I believe that's where people resonate. So, I want to talk about what emotions you find most often associated with this idea of retirement and which are the ones that you experienced.
So let's start with me. Confusion, anger, exhaustion, kind of mad, didn't know how to deal with stuff very well. Now what, right? And I think what I have learned in this transition is that as you talk about the next chapter, I wish I had the ability to call you or know you. You would have set me straight so that I would think about this more in a clear manner. And I love what you say about that, because like, I'm making it up, going to school or having a career or a promotion or potentially a family if you choose, you don't really understand retirement, and in particular in my area, healthy retirement, until you walk through those doors. So it gets complicated. It gets very complicated. And there's a lot of anticipation and expectations and dualities if you're in a household with people at different times that are retiring, and expectations from family. And I always talk about how important it is for the individual who's retiring to communicate their thoughts and what they want to be doing. And it's amazing, in America we don't talk about this. We do not talk about this. I talk about that we're so lucky that we have the financial markets to set us up, right, in the packages from the companies and potentially personally for people. But there's no you planning. And even there's been recognition in the financial industry in financial planning and wealth management creation, et cetera, that no, they don't have this component, right? So in terms of emotions, I sort of am experiencing now, so I can give you real-time data, Maria, and I don't like to generalize, because I'm very, very careful about that. And everyone is unique and special, and it comes from different environments, working environments, experiences, cultures, etc. But if I were to give you maybe 3 buckets of individuals and sort of an associated feeling with how they are feeling. So in the first bucket, I would say that these are the people that would join your mom and dad's camp, right? Yay! Tomorrow I'm on the road. I'm traveling. See you later. Don't want to be you, right? I'm out of corporate. It's exciting. Yay and yay. So typically, and that's why I suggest to really think long term. People are thinking very short term, right? So typically this journey will last anywhere between 1 and 5 years. And in that, 2 things happen. One, which is the cash runs out, the party runs out, right? But more archingly over this problem is the fact that I will get the call, Nance, I thought I'd be really happy playing tennis all day long, or to be with my grandchildren all day long, or whatever the situation is that they so want to do. And what's lacking here is fulfillment, that which is greater than they are. And we know in retirement that this is not a nice to have. This is a must. This is a must. And so that's one, an emptiness, a feeling of there's just not enough. And in fact, just before I jumped on with you, I attended a global summit, and this feeling of a human connecting to something that is bigger than they are, however the person wants to define that, actually is a trend, a health and wellness trend right now. Humans want to feel, it's like, why am I here? What's bigger than me, right? That can impact others, right? So that's sort of a sense of the first group. And then the second group, I would say, is that they fall forward. I'm not making any plans. I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm good. They walk right across and they're there. And then what happens is, because there's no planning, And again, we've got a loneliness, could be a loneliness a factor coming in here, could be an isolation, could be just something's off. It's not just the way they perceived it, right? They perceived or anticipated this step over. They thought, somebody would take care of them. Well, guess what? There's no company there anymore. These types of things. And unfortunately, this is a bucket where people self-medicate. And you and I know, Maria, and your audience knows, the progression of self-medication does not end well, right? So we have to be very, very careful about that. But I offer to this group of people that there's hope, and that you can create at any time within your journey your next career, your next stage, what you want to do. In other words, what matters most to you in this moment? And then let's go envision it, let's plan for it, and let's actualize it, right? So that's a sense of almost recovery, right? That they've landed pretty hard because they've made no plans, but now it's a softer landing because they see the light, right? They see the light and a way forward. So that's very cool. And the third bucket is really someone, and we go back to your TED Talk, Maria, and the titling, and these people often are really identify their identity, their beliefs, their value systems. Again, I'm making up these titles, but I am that professional. I am that teacher, that doctor, the finance person, the marketing person. They've done this for 30 years or more in the same company generally. And so when they all of a sudden, the company's bought, or it's time for retirement, or whatever the situation is, and they are out, all of a sudden they become very fearful. They're afraid. Why? Well, rightly so, because they're out of their environment, right? They're out of the environment. So how do we motivate these individuals to explore and play? And that's where I say, you just got to get out of your comfort zone, right? You've got to get up and you've got to play. And by playing, you're going to fail. I tell it like it is because I'm from New York. You're going to fail. And I failed many, many times. Gosh, I thought I would love something in creating this company. And I'm like, Maria, it's good, but it's not my love, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, those are interesting buckets.
Yeah.
And what I see is that there's a thread that is woven through all of them from an emotional standpoint. So, there is the excitement and the fear, right?
Yeah.
But it happens in both. And it's always, it is always for people, in my experience, a challenge to think about it in terms that makes them comfortable.
Yes.
Because they have to get used to being comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's new. It's
Precisely.
a new chapter, it's a new page, and getting the guidance that will help them kind of walk that path, by taking one small step and then another, without getting overwhelmed by it, because it can be any change in life, any significant transition has its challenges.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So what are some of the biggest questions you faced, and are there other challenges you hear from your clients? What are some of the biggest challenges?
In terms of the transition, Maria, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Financial, of course, is going to be one of them, right?
Right.
It's probably the first one.
Right.
But what else?
Right. So I think the health factor is a huge factor, because usually there's an initial first-time health issue of some sort, right? Of some
Yeah.
sort, and or to, if it's in a partnership or marriage, and or to that partner. So the health issue is challenging. Building those skill sets that you talk about, like the resilience, the bounce in the legs, right? To be able to have that cushion as they're growing, building that personal growth, re-looking at beliefs and values, and kind of figuring out, like what. Again, I'm using this reverse engineering model, looking out when I'm 125, Maria, I want to be doing XYZ, whatever my XYZ is. And you'll be there too with me. And so then coming back to now today, what is it that I need to do? So everybody's different, right? So we're defining that and what matters most and what delivers most impact. And yes, it's scary. It's very scary. I want to encourage people, Maria and I are talking about this, but this is not for the weak of heart, right? So this is you all out there, you're amazingly powerful, talented, gorgeous humans, and you can do anything. I want people to come away with that, right?
Yeah. And you know what, one of the things I run into all the time is the effect, like kind of the long-term effect of the label they've been attached to for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned teacher, high-powered corporate leader, right? Those are hard labels. Doctors, nurses, those are hard labels to give up when you're not doing that anymore. And you may still be called doctor.
Yes, as an honor. It's an honor. Mm-hmm.
But so the challenges I find are the ones you were just alluding to, where they have to dig deep. They really have to get introspective to understand as your world turns now.
Yes.
Right? That you will be doing different things. So what are the things that you've asked some great questions. What do you value most today? What means the most to you today? And for the foreseeable future? And what are the plans that you can make that align?
Yeah, love that word.
Values, right? That finding that alignment again. And that's the biggest, I find for a lot of people, that's the biggest challenge, is going, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself because I've been this for so long. But if you've been that for so long, you've developed a lot of skills. You have a treasure chest full of things that you can repurpose.
We talk about it in the corporate world as transferable skills, right?
Exactly.
So that's such a valuable lesson, Maria, for everybody, whether they're, in your marketplace in terms of a younger generation and or in my world where, humans are amazing. And humans are very adaptable. And so what are your superpowers, right, in terms of how you're thinking about your career and, progressive, right? So, right. And then hanged, we're not losing those. We're just adding to them.
How can you apply them differently?
Exactly.
That's the key. Figuring out what they are and then how you can apply them differently to, light you up, right? To fulfill your purpose now.
Right.
Because it's changing. Yeah. Right. These transitions are, you said it, not for the faint of heart. They're not. They're not easy. And they are so much easier when you have guidance and support. So I want to close this part of our conversation with that. You mentioned it earlier, communicating. But it's important to communicate how you're feeling, what you're thinking about, what you're planning. If you're planning with someone else, there has to be that. But let's touch on getting support. I am a huge advocate for surrounding ourselves with the right kind of people when making these kinds of transitions.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us why you think it's essential to communicate your need for support during this time. What do you think?
Well, for me, it was, I wanted people to understand what I was going through. And I wanted people to understand why, and that it was difficult for me. And humans naturally are supportive of each other. But if you don't tell people, how they can't guess, right?
Yeah.
So that was huge for me. And then in terms of what you're talking about, building this team, obviously, if there's a family, obviously we start there. But then building the right team around you to support you on this journey, right? So developing, if you're in your life's wheel, or I call it a life's orbit, whatever you want to call, in your different areas that you need support and growth, Maria, right? So support and growth, right?
Right. Yeah. So people who support that growth. So
Yes.
there are some people that are in your inner circle right now who may feel threatened by
Mm-hmm.
the journey you're embarking on. Those are not the people you want in your inner circle. So you get to choose to move them out of your inner circle. It doesn't mean that that you discard the relationship by any stretch of the imagination. But if you want to grow within this new chapter of
Mm-hmm.
yours, then you need to be surrounding yourself with the people who understand you, whom you trust, right? And who have your best interest at heart. Was it Jim Rohn who said something like, you are the average of the 5 people closest to you. So you want to choose those 5 people really carefully,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can up your average.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love Jim Rohn. He's fabulous. And
Yeah.
it's so true. Right. And also I want to add exactly to what you said, that it is your choice. It is
Yeah.
the human's choice. Right. So this is such an opportunity, my goodness, to have and possess this healthy retirement. And in your case, to have and possess these career transitions that you're so expert at. And it should be the most awesome time, right?
Mhm.
Of moving and life. Think of life. It's a beautiful circle. It's a path, right? And so it's a process, right? It's sort of like every moment is an opportunity, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
how I look at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great way to look at it. Not everybody can sort through all the stuff that comes up at a time of
Yes.
change, whether it's a retirement change or a career change or any change in life, right? Your perspective about it, your attitude about
Mm.
it is really important. And getting, if you're struggling with it, try, reach out. It is not a weakness to to feel like you need help. That's not a sign of weakness. Actually, it's a sign of strength and being really smart. That there are other people out there who've been there, done that, and maybe can help you make your journey a little easier. All right, so Nancy, we end every episode with powerful tips and practical strategies from my guest. So I'd love to ask you to give us some of yours. Would you start with your first tip for us?
Yes. Yes, thank you. So my first tip would be think long term, right? So I want you to think really long-term in terms of your healthy longevity down to the cellular level, and then reverse engineer, right? So you can come to where you are now. My second thing is to move all of you, move your mind, move your body, and move that which is greater than you, right? So we come as a whole, right? And somehow over the decades, we get sliced and diced and I don't know, thrown in a blender, who knows? But bring yourself back to the wholeness and move everything. Because most people, when I talk about move, they think, oh, Nancy, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do any more push-ups. And I'm like, push-ups are included in this package, but there's a little bit more. So consider all of you, right? Consider all of you.
Yeah.
And then I think, Maria, for this time frame to really possess that growth mindset, right? Very much the growth mindset with the inclusiveness of finding your fulfillment. You know, what is it for you in this moment?
Yeah. I love those. Those are really great. The idea of moving everything is not just moving your body, although we all know that that's good for your health.
Right.
But keeping your mind active is so important, and finding what will make you or allow you to feel fulfilled, like you're still contributing. Right? I think that's so critical at a time, at many times in our lives, but especially at this time when something that has been going on for likely a very long time, your career, right, has been going on for a long time. Even though you may have changed careers along the way, your work life is coming to an end as you knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, it morphed into something that I don't even call work anymore, but because I love what I do, find that.
Yeah.
That's what's so important. And keeping your mind active and challenged, that growth mindset, I think that's really important. Mm-hmm. All right. So Nancy, unfortunately, we could probably talk for hours. I say that to so many of my guests because I get into these great conversations and I don't want them to end. But alas, we have to. Okay. So I would love to share with our audience how they can get in touch with you. So what is the one best way to do that?
Thank you, Maria. So that's my website, which is envisionhealthyretirement.com. And I'm going to say it one more time. It's envisionhealthyretirement.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I really, really appreciate your being here. I don't talk about the retirement transition very often on this show, but you were a great guest and I really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Maria, for having me. So appreciate you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And everyone else, I thank you all for watching and listening. I appreciate that you're a part of this community. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a comment or a review. And if there's a star rating where you're listening, please pick a star. And as I said at the top of the show, I love creating and sharing resources for professional women who feel stuck in their careers. So if something in this episode resonates and you'd like to continue the conversation, come over and join me on our private Facebook group called the Career Transition Roadmap. I'd love to have you, ask questions. So we'd love to respond to them there. And the link for that is below in the show notes. And then let's meet again here next Wednesday, same time. You know what? I really believe it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.